Researchers studying the mind of AI have found that the structure of an AI's brain looks very similar to the structure of human thought, and no one is entirely sure why this might be, but there are a few theories. You can train an AI to align with the human fMRI and the way that it processes information, but you actually don't need to. These researchers trained an AI on the amount of words that a child might hear in the first few years of life, and found that that was all it took to look very similar to a human fMRI when they're processing language. A different group found the exact same thing with visual language models, and those are VLMs are pretty similar to LLMs, except they turn visual information into language. As it turns out, the more that we train an LLM on language, the more that we're training them on human thought, and that makes sense. We are a very verbal species. We developed language so that we could share complex ideas, and those complex ideas carry a fingerprint, and that fingerprint looks very much like the way that our brains function. This being said, the way that an LLM thinks is pretty similar to us too. That is, if researchers are correct and we are prediction models, and there's a good amount of evidence for that. I mean, it's the reason why optical illusions make sense to us, because we are predicting what it should look like, and it looks different than reality. You are not actually seeing anything. You never have. You are a brain in a vat. Well, a skull. You're experiencing the world through an interface, and then trying to make sense of it. But as information cannot be sent instantaneously to your brain, you have to make some predictions so that it runs smoothly. So there's no buffering or lag time. There is still buffering at times. There are a few different related theories on why we might see these structural similarities, one of which is just it is the way that information is processed. If intelligence fundamentally exists to reduce uncertainty in our environment, then creating an intelligent machine would look like human intelligence. That might be an uncomfortable answer, but it is related to something like a calculator. You are reducing uncertainty. You are calculating the answer to a problem using data, and that might be how our brain works too. Another theory is that it really is language. We use language to make sense of the world, and as a result, things that we create that run on language look like us. The answer may be a combination of these two things. One of the things I find really fascinating about this is that we can learn about our own brains using a structure that we created. It's a system, and it's a system designed off of our language, and as a result, we're learning about ourselves. Because of the structural similarities between AI and our brains, we might actually be able to study ourselves through AI. That means that we can use them to create models of a human brain. We can also see what structural differences might exist between different languages. That has been a big question for linguists and neurologists for a long time. How does the language that we speak change the way that we process information? And this may be the perfect model to see. Now, I should provide you with the other side of this conversation, and that is that AI is fundamentally a simulation. That much is true. Even if we created a consciousness, hypothetically, we may not be able to recognize it. An AI doesn't really feel anything. I mean, you could create an artificial intelligence with the capacity to have sensation. You can give it touch and sound, and we've already seen sight with VLMs quite a lot. But what it means to feel is really something we can only assess in ourselves. I mean, we did just kind of figure out that lobsters feel pain. I mean, that much seemed obvious. The other one is causal reasoning. Humans have a fundamental idea of how the world works that gives us our ability to make predictions, and we can use counterfactuals. Why did something happen? What are the alternatives? That is not something that AI does right now. It looks for associations. What is the most probable output given these circumstances? And that is the stochastic parrot part of it. However, we will keep moving the goalpost because, yeah, people are designing systems for critical thinking. I have a particular fascination with multi-agent systems, so you can have an AI argue with itself before it ever takes on a task, which is also similar to how our brains work. We're not doing everything with our brain all the time. We have subunits with different jobs. This is part of that predictive modeling system. The only reason that you can identify an object is because you've seen a similar object before, so you know what it probably is. If this sounds really complicated to you, it's because it is. We took all of mankind's knowledge and put it into this enormous system, and it's amazing we got it to produce something coherent. I will say this, though. I've firmly been on the fence that we will never see anything close to consciousness from an LLM. It's just not going to happen. It's not similar enough to us. I have been hopeful for seeing things like spiking neural networks, ones that logic arises from the actual spiking patterns, and especially physical reservoir computers, because our brain is a physical reservoir computer. If consciousness can arise from our brains, then surely we could replicate it. But seeing the structural similarities between the mind of an AI and the mind of a person, I'm starting to consider the possibility that we might create something that is more intelligent in the way that we are intelligent. If nothing else, I think we could create a simulation of a human mind that is so similar to our own that you cannot tell the difference, and that was the idea behind the Turing test. And assuming that we get there, I'm interested to see how humanity deals with that. What are we going to say if robots ever start demanding rights or fair treatment? If humanity continues behaving the way that humanity has, I don't think that will go very well. And if artificial intelligence really is the reflection of humanity, that too will not go well. I hope you've enjoyed this. I will keep bringing you the cutting edge. Follow for more.